Hey kids, I hope you've had a good day and I hope you're having a good night. I'm here again to talk to you about noticing when you lose your way, to monitor your comprehension. We've already discussed a couple of reasons, fatigue and distracting connections, as examples of why our meaning breaks down. When we talk about our meaning breaking down when we read, we are referring to how we lose our track of thought, our thinking, when we're trying to follow our inner conversation. So tonight, when you do your independent reading, I want you to really focus on your following your inner conversation strategy. I want you to use Post-its. If you don't have Post-its, create one of those 6 squares that we used in class the other day and use that on a notebook paper. That can even serve as your bookmark. I want you to really make sure you're making good connections with the text from yourself, from text to text, maybe something that you read in another book that reminded you of something that's going on in the book you're reading tonight. And I want you to recognize when your meaning breaks down. Is it because you're fatigued or too tired, so you need to go back and reread? Is it because you had a distracting connection and you need to mark that place with a Post-it? Or is it because of stress? And I'm going to give you an example of stress as an example of why my meaning might break down. So here I am again with the article called Stealing Beauty from the Time magazine. I was reading for the past couple of days, and I'm just going to continue where I left off. The global appetite for such relics has sparked a lawless gold rush across Asia. In the past year alone, Indian police busted a smuggling ring that allegedly stripped hundreds of temples and monuments of sculptures and frescoes, then sent them on to be sold to collectors in the U.S. and Europe. Cambodian cops seized several truckloads of priceless Khmer sculptures crudely ripped from archaeological sites in Banteay Menchie province. That's a lot of information, and I am following my inner conversation so far. And I can just connect because they're talking about what they're doing about all of these grave robbers that are stealing all of these precious items and selling them to Europe and the U.S. for lots of money. And the Chinese officials uncovered the theft of 158 pieces of religious statuary from a collection lent to a museum in Shanghai by the Forbidden Cities Palace Museum in Beijing. That is a lot. That sentence I did not understand, and I was getting a little bit stressed because there's lots of words, lots of cities that I don't know how to pronounce. I don't know where they are. So I'm going to ask questions. Where are these cities? And I might go to my map down here and look for them. I might look up how to pronounce them. I might look up a little bit of their history, and that will help me understand the text a little bit more. So when something stresses you when you're reading, take a moment to write on a Post-it a question or two that you can go back and either look at now or later to help you fix up your meaning. The next example of why meaning breaks down is if an article or a book is too hard. Okay? Now, it may not be that the whole book is too hard, but just that one of the passages or one of the chapters is too hard. So what I'm going to ask you to do that, to fix up that problem, is to use your background knowledge. So tonight when you're reading, and if you come to a paragraph that's too hard, that you aren't understanding, I want you to first ask some questions. And then I want you to use what you've already read in your book to help you figure out what's going on. Or use your own personal connections. And our last example that we're going to talk about in the video, and we'll talk about one last example tomorrow in class, but my last example is when you can't pronounce a word. It happens to all of us, and you saw it happen to me. So when I can't pronounce a word, there's a lot in this article that I can't pronounce, and most of them are cities. But, for example, this paragraph, the dramatic ransacking of Baghdad's National Museum during the Iraq War may have grabbed headlines earlier this year, but the consistent, widespread, and largely unremarked looting of Asia is far more damaging. And there's words like non-governmental, preservation, destruction, heritage, all of those words, antiquities, those are difficult words. So, if I can't pronounce a word, what I'm going to do is skip over unfamiliar names and places and find out their pronunciation after reading. Don't let it stop you, okay? You're going to skip over names and places and find the meaning later. So if you come to a name like I've come to in this article several times that I don't know how to pronounce, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to skip it, and I'm going to move on. So in your reading log tonight, I would love it if in the summary section you would write, you would notice where your meaning broke down during your inner conversation. And I'm going to have a blog post up on Gaggle tonight also in the same blog. Notice when you lose your way. And I would like for you to respond to that blog tonight for homework. So if any of these happen to you tonight when reading, just write down what happened and then write down what you did to fix it up. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I hope you have a good night.